Welcome to Chapter 2, Conceptual Framework for Financial Reporting. My name is Cherie Bergeron. So we're going to start with objective number 1. Describe the usefulness of a conceptual framework and the objective of financial reporting. So the reason that accountants need a conceptual framework is that it allows the FASB to issue more useful and consistent pronouncements over time. Think about this. If we used a personal conceptual framework, everything is considered within that context. For example, in the pandemic of 2020, we have many varying opinions about politics, masks, cases, risks. We all have a natural tendency and an incredible talent for processing new facts in such a way that our prior conclusions remain intact. I bet you've seen this if you've ever discussed a controversial topic with a friend. Because of this, in accounting, it's important to have the same conceptual framework agreed upon ahead of time to enable more useful and consistent pronouncements over time. Over the years, numerous organizations developed their own conceptual frameworks, but in 1976, FASB began developing a universally accepted framework, and since then, they've issued 7 statements of financial accounting concepts, as you see here. In the first level of the conceptual framework, we have the objectives of financial reporting. In the second level, we have the qualitative characteristics and elements, so there's 2 parts there. In the third level, we have recognition, measurement, and disclosure concepts. So let's look at it in this format here. So the first level is down here, and it tells the why. So it tells the purpose of financial reporting. It identifies the objectives of financial reporting. And then the second level, which we see right here, provides the qualitative characteristics that make accounting information useful and the elements of the financial statements like assets, liabilities, etc. So we're going to be talking about these 2 parts of the second level, the qualitative characteristics and the elements. This third level, which tells how, identifies the recognition, measurement, and disclosure concepts used in establishing and applying standards. That's why this level tells how. The basic objective of financial reporting is the foundation of the conceptual framework. All the other aspects of this framework flow logically from this objective. The objective is to provide financial information about the reporting entity that is useful to present and potential equity investors, lenders, and other creditors in making decisions about providing resources to the entity. Let's look at this review question. What are the statements of financial accounting concepts intended to establish? Is it A, generally accepted accounting principles and financial reporting by enterprises? B, the meaning of present fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles? C, the objectives and concepts for use in developing standards of financial accounting and reporting? Or D, the hierarchy of sources of generally accepted accounting standards or principles? So the answer is C. The objectives and concepts for use in developing standards of financial accounting and reporting. Objective number 2, identify the qualitative characteristics of accounting information and the basic elements of financial statements. So the qualitative characteristics of accounting information, let's look at it right here. Qualitative characteristics are either fundamental or enhancing, depending on how they affect the decision usefulness of the information. Fundamental qualities, right here, are made up of relevance and faithful representation. However, providing useful information is limited by the constraint, which is cost. The cost should not exceed the benefits of reporting. All right, now we're going to break it down a little bit further. So under the fundamental qualities, we're going to first talk about relevance. So relevance, in order to have relevance, accounting information must be capable of making a difference in a decision. So it's relevant if it makes a difference in a user's decision. So that's the fundamental quality called relevance. In order to be capable of making a difference, it must have the ingredients of predictive value, confirmatory value, and materiality. Let's first look at predictive value. So financial information has predictive value if it has value as an input to predictive processes used by investors to form their expectations about the future. So that's why we call it predictive. For example, if potential investors are interested in purchasing UPS stock, they may analyze its current assets, liabilities, dividend payments, and its past performance to predict the amount, timing, and uncertainty of UPS's future cash flows. This is why it's called predictive value. All right, next let's look at confirmatory value. Relevant information also helps users confirm or correct prior expectations. For example, when UPS issues its year-end financial statements, it confirms or changes past expectations based on previous evaluations. All right, lastly, let's look at materiality. Information is material if omitting it or misstating it could influence decisions that users make on the basis of the reported financial information. Assessing materiality is one of the more challenging aspects of accounting because it requires evaluating both the relative size and the importance of an item. Companies and their auditors generally adopt the rule of thumb that anything under 5% of net income is immaterial. However, much can depend on specific rules. Companies must consider both quantitative and qualitative factors in determining whether the amount is material. So we just finished talking about the relevance under fundamental qualities, and next we're going to go to faithful representation under the fundamental qualities. So the second fundamental quality is faithful representation. Faithful representation means that the numbers and descriptions match what really existed or happened. To be a faithful representation, it must have these ingredients. It must be complete, neutral, and free from error. Let's talk about each of those. Let's look at this slide first. Faithful representation means that the numbers and descriptions match what really existed or happened. So underneath that, the ingredients that we have are completeness, neutrality, and free from error. So let's talk about completeness now. Completeness means just what it sounds like. It means that all the information that is necessary is provided. It's complete information. The flip side of that is that an omission can cause the information to be false or misleading. If Citigroup fails to provide information to assess the value of its subprime loan receivables, the information is not complete and therefore not a faithful representation of their values. Neutrality means that a company cannot select information to favor one set of interested parties over another. They have to remain neutral. The final ingredient for faithful representation is free from error. An information item that is free from error will be a more accurate, faithful representation of a financial item. So we've talked about fundamental qualities under qualitative characteristics and faithful representation. Now let's talk about the enhancing qualities. Enhancing qualities are complementary to the fundamental qualitative characteristics. These characteristics distinguish more useful information from less useful information. They include comparability, verifiability, timeliness, and understandability. Notice these enhancing qualities are complementary to both the fundamental qualities of relevance and faithful representation. Comparability allows users to identify similarities and differences in economic events between companies, so they can compare one company to another company. Another type of comparability is consistency. This is met when a company applies the same accounting treatment to similar events from period to period. Now let's talk about verifiability. This occurs when independent measures using the same methods obtain similar results. Timeliness means having information available to decision makers before it loses its capacity to influence decisions. Understandability is the quality of information that lets reasonably informed users see its significance. So we finished talking about the qualitative characteristics, which were the fundamental qualities of relevance and faithful representation, and the enhancing qualities. Now let's talk about the elements. The basic elements are going to be our terminology, and we need to use terminology that has the same meaning for all people. So assets are probable future economic benefits obtained or controlled by a particular entity as a result of past transaction or events. All right, so in Accounting 1, we learned that assets are things that we own that benefit us in the future. So we're just building on that definition. Liabilities, remember we learned that those are things that we owe. These are probable future sacrifices of economic benefits arising from present obligations of a particular entity to transfer assets or provide services to other entities in the future as a result of past transactions or events. So let's put this into context of what you already know. Liabilities are our obligation to transfer an asset or provide services. We either owe something, usually cash, but could be another asset, or we owe them the work. We need to provide the services that we owe them. So these are liabilities. Equity is the residual interest in the assets of an entity that remains after deducting its liabilities. This is because we can change the accounting equation to say assets minus liabilities equals equity. And that's because it is the residual interest in the assets after deducting the liabilities. Investment by owners. The book definition: increases in net assets of a particular enterprise resulting from transfers to it from other entities of something of value to obtain or increase ownership, interest, or equity in it. So investment by owners is the transfer from another entity, could be an individual or an entity, of something of value. So either an asset, or it would be an asset, cash or other property, and it would increase the ownership interest in it. Distribution to owners, we knew this as withdrawals in Accounting 1, and then we knew it as dividends in Accounting 2. Decreases in net assets of a particular enterprise resulting from transferring assets, rendering services, or incurring liabilities by the enterprise to the owners. It's a distribution to that owner. Comprehensive income is change in equity, that's the net assets minus liabilities, of an entity during a period from transactions and other events from non-owner sources. So you could say that it's all the changes in equity during a period except those resulting from investments by owners and distributions to owners. To owners. So revenues minus expenses is going to give you comprehensive income, plus gains minus losses. Anything except investments by owners, distributions to owners. All right, so what are revenues? Inflows or other enhancements of assets of an entity or settlement of its liabilities, or a combination of both, during a period from delivering or producing goods, rendering services, or other activities that constitute the entity's ongoing major or central operations, doing what we're in the business of doing. Expenses are outflows or other uses of assets or incurrence of liabilities, or a combination of both, during a period from delivering or producing goods, rendering services, or carrying out other activities that constitute the entity's ongoing major or central operations. In other words, the outflows associated with the revenues. Those are our expenses. Gains. Increase in equity from peripheral or incidental transactions of an entity and from all other transactions and other events and circumstances affecting the entity during a period except those that result from revenues or investments by owners. So if it's not a revenue or an investment by owner, then it can be a gain. For example, when we sold a truck for more than its book value, we have a gain. Losses are the opposite. Decrease in equity, that's net assets, from peripheral or incidental transactions of an entity, from all other transactions and other events and circumstances affecting the entity during a period, except those that result from expenses or distributions to owners. Like when we sold an asset for less than the book value, creates a loss. Take a look at these examples of these concepts. So pause it, take a look at them, and then we'll keep going. All right, objective number 4, explain the application of the basic principles of accounting. So now we're on the second section, on the third level, the principles. We've got measurement, revenue recognition, expense recognition, and full disclosure. So under measurement principle, these are commonly used measurements, and they're based on historical cost and fair value. So historical cost provides a reliable benchmark for measuring historical trends. This is when we say that we put the truck down at the cost that we actually paid for that truck, historical cost. Fair value information may be more useful. The board has given companies the option to use fair value as the basis for measurement of financial assets and financial liabilities. Reporting of fair value information is increasing. Revenue recognition requires that companies recognize revenue in the accounting period in which the performance obligation is satisfied. We'll talk more about this later, but it means that we recognize revenue when it is earned. That is, when performance obligation is satisfied. Expense recognition, let the expense follow the revenues. We're going to put the expense in the same period that they helped us to earn our revenues. Assume that Boeing Corporation signs a contract to sell airplanes to Delta Airlines for $100 million. To determine when to recognize revenue, we'll use the 5 steps for revenue recognition shown at the right. Step 1. Identify the contract with the customer. A contract is an agreement between two parties that creates enforceable rights or obligations. In this case, Boeing has signed a contract to deliver airplanes to Delta. Move on to Step 2. Identify the separate performance obligations in the contract. Boeing has only one performance obligation, to deliver airplanes to Delta. If Boeing also agreed to maintain the planes, a separate performance obligation is recorded for this promise. Step 3. Determine the transaction price. Transaction price is the amount of consideration that a company expects to receive from a customer in exchange for transferring a good or service. In this case, the transaction price is straightforward. It's $100 million. Step 4. Allocate the transaction price to the separate performance obligations. In this case, Boeing has only one performance obligation, to deliver airplanes to Delta. Step 5. Recognize revenue when each performance obligation is satisfied. Boeing recognized revenue of $100 million for the sale of the airplanes to Delta when it satisfies its performance obligation, when it delivers the airplanes to Delta. Let's talk about expense recognition. We can say, let the expense follow the revenues. Let's think about product costs in a manufacturing firm. We have material, labor, and overhead. There's a direct relationship between the cost and the revenue. We're going to recognize that expense when we make the sale. And so we add up all those costs, keep it in inventory, and then we move them to an expense in the period we earn the revenue. So that's the matching principle. But period costs are different. Salaries, administrative costs, etc. There's no direct relationship between the cost and the revenue, so we just expense it as it is incurred. That's what we mean by let the expense follow the revenue. Full disclosure is providing information that is of sufficient importance to influence the judgment and decisions of the users. It is provided through financial statements, notes to the financial statements, and supplementary information. All right, take a minute, pause it, read through this illustration, and then we'll continue. Cost constraint. We're right over here on this level 3. So what this means is that companies must weigh the cost of providing the information against the benefits that can be derived from using it. In order for rulemaking bodies and governmental agencies to justify requiring a particular measurement or disclosure, the benefits perceived to be derived from it must exceed the costs perceived to be associated with it. So there are several kinds of costs to consider. Think about cost of collecting information, processing that information, getting that information out to the public, and any other type of gathering and reporting that may be entailed. So this is the cost constraint. It means that we need to weigh the benefit against the cost of providing that information. This concludes Chapter 2 PowerPoint. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.